All right, guys, I'm going to just continue to mention getting here on time. If the bathroom is an issue here or here, folks, try to find other spaces on campus and make sure you're leaving early. You know if you're having difficulty getting here on time, so please make the adjustments necessary so that we can start on time. I'm actually going to start off with something that's not chapel related. Although I wasn't here on campus, last night I saw the girls' volleyball team play on the stream, and I just wanted to mention how it was a really cool moment to see in the fourth game, you guys were down 13-24, which means if they lost 1 point, they would have lost the match. But they won 13 straight points and won that game, so that was really cool. So that was just a great moment of teamwork and sort of celebration. Now, unfortunately, they did not go on to win the fifth game. And part of the reason I'm saying this, other than acknowledging that really cool moment, is I've had this ongoing frustration with a certain chant that is sometimes done by students at Doc sports games that has not treated us well, and that is "Start the buses." There are so many times that has come back to look really dumb. And last night, unfortunately, was one of those moments. And just think about, if you're the opposing team, you just had something bad happen, right? Doc has won a game, or they scored a goal, or they did whatever, and the momentum's against you, and then you start hearing people say, "Start the buses, they're done." How are you going to react? You're going to be like, they think we're out of here. They think we're done, right? Let's respond. You are giving them the emotional thrust that they need. You guys are supposed to be supporting Doc, not the other team, right? And so really the only time that you should be saying it is when it's so clearly over that it doesn't matter and you're just being jerks anyway. So can we just agree? Let's not do that chant. It is a bad chant, okay? Anyway. I have a bit of an axe to grind on that. So guys, I just saw before coming here that on the morning announcements that the verse of the day is Hebrews 10:23. Let us hold unswervingly to the hope that we profess. And if you guys don't check out the morning announcements, I encourage you just to check out the verse of the day. Sometimes I am consistently amazed by how often the verse of the day relates to something that's on my mind or I'm thinking of at the moment. So I had prepared some words for the song we're going to sing, and I just thought, wow, let us hold unswervingly to the hope that we profess. So David and I, last week Pastor Kyle shared on Friday, and he and I had this song sort of on our hearts for how we were hoping you guys were led to respond last week. And so while God is always present and able to work in our lives, it is up to us to make room, to make time for Him. And so we're not going to usually experience God's presence unless we do that, unless we take steps to give Him space. Now for me, I'm usually so busy that it's really easy to get to the end of my day and feel like I didn't have any time set aside for God. So sometimes, I'll realize, okay, I didn't spend any time, but I watched an hour of TV or YouTube, or maybe on the weekend I spent a bunch of hours doing this activity with friends, but I didn't do anything more than just watching church. And so, I could easily say, I need rest during the day. I've been really busy all day. I need a break, just watch some YouTube videos, or I need to keep up with my relationships with my friends. But don't I believe as a Christian that I can find true rest by spending time with God? And don't I believe that I need to keep up with my relationship with God just as I would my relationship with my friends? So it's really about priorities. And I would say, for myself and many of us would say that faith is one of the most important things in our lives. It's something we profess. But do our actions show that? How do our actions show our priorities? It takes a lot of work to align what we believe or what we say with how we actually spend our time. We're constantly pushed to just do what feels good in the moment. Even our brains, you guys know, with like social media and phones, and just we want that brain, yeah, that's what I want now. So it takes work to resist that. So as we move beyond last week's Spiritual Life Emphasis Week, I encourage you to just take this time as we play this song to reflect on what are your priorities and how is that coming out in how you're spending your time. Take a moment to pray, to reconnect with God, and consider how you might make room for Him in your life. Because I promise if you do, it will be worth it. And you can join in as you feel like you know the song.
I find space for what I treasure. I make time for what I want. I choose my priorities, and Jesus, you're my number one. I will make room for you. I will prepare for two, so you don't feel that you can't live here. Please live in me. I find space for what I treasure. I make time for what I want. I choose my priorities, and Jesus, you're my number one. I will make room for you. I will prepare for two, so you don't feel that you can't live here. Please live in me. Please live in me. I will make room. My will.
Move that over. You can move that over. Move that over. Dear Lord, we thank you that you're always present with us. Help us to spend time with you. To think about our priorities, Lord, and to know that in your presence, you are good, you are peace, and you are love. Be with us this day. In your name we pray. Amen. All right, so today is another round of the doc exchange. You might be like, what's up with that? So that's what I titled this thing where we have panelists of students and teachers. We did one a few weeks ago. And the purpose of this is it's a way for us to get to know each other a little bit, to take time to express gratitude and reflect on meaningful things that are happening in our life, and also to talk openly about our life together on campus. And by understanding each other's perspectives on things, maybe we can adjust our mindset or make decisions that help build each other up. And so it's really about helping us to appreciate and love one another. So there are two types of questions that we give the panelists. One, the more thoughtful questions that they'll answer in maybe more length. You can start moving this stuff. They get ahead of time, and so they're kind of prepared to answer those. And then we also have shorter, more fun questions that they're not given ahead of time, and then they're not going to give an explanation for. It's just like a one-word answer. So at this time, I'm going to invite our panelists up, and let's give them a hand, and you guys can play the song as they come up.
Come on now. I know y'all feeling this. Let's go. Come on. Come on. Sometimes you just pull up to wall while you need that sandwich. You need that pipe behind mac and cheese. Come on. I know y'all know this. Come on, let's get hype, let's get going. Come on, you know the vibe. Let's go!
So in case you guys couldn't figure that out, that was David, and he did not know I was going to play that as our walk-up song, Hoagie and Mac and Cheese. So David, I feel like our first question for the panelists should be, what are your two favorite foods?
I guess hoagie and mac and cheese. I don't know.
All right, students. Test it. You gotta keep going. Go ahead. Keep talking. They can hear you. It's got to be on. Check. There you go. For next time. What did you say? They probably didn't hear you.
Steak and pasta.
Are you working?
Am I working? I am working. Seafood, so shrimp and lobster.
Bread and chocolate.
Chocolate chip, cream cheese, cupcakes, and bacon, but not together.
Cheese and crackers. And ice cream.
All right, good answers, everyone. So, if you could be an animal besides a human, which would you be? Guess we can start with you, Jonah.
To be honest, I definitely want to be a jaguar because I can climb trees.
I don't know what to say from this one.
Mike, put the mic up.
I don't know what to say for this one. I don't know.
Good one. Okay. I'd probably say a dog. They're pretty cool.
A turtle.
Brian, maybe you want to be a chameleon?
You need me to get one? I'll say a lizard.
All right, so to the couple more serious questions. We'll start with the faculty. I think Mr. Bauer and Mrs. Martin are on this one. As a student, what was your favorite thing about Doc?
So my mind went to choir, and it's nice that Mr. Durstein is actually here today, and I can say some of these things in his presence. But yeah, for me, choir, I don't think I came into high school as a singer, and so you were pretty gracious with working with me. But the time I spent learning how to sing, I think worked parts of my brain that I wasn't used to working before, and it developed a sense of noticing beauty in music and beautiful things in nature and other things that I think I probably was not as trained to notice. And then it just opened up my world, touring choir, visiting local churches, seeing how church was done in different ways. First time that I went to New York City was to sing in Carnegie Hall with the choir. And then the touring choir trip to Europe. First time I was on a plane and went that far away from home. It just opened my world up.
I thought more about day to day. My favorite thing was lunchtime. I think I had the menu memorized. I just loved having extra time with friends, being together in the cafeteria, being together outside. So I enjoyed the freedom and the socialization of lunch.
And I'm going to ask Leah and Brian to answer this one. Favorite thing about Doc?
About Doc?
Yeah.
My favorite thing, I'm gonna have to agree with Mrs. Martin. I like having like the freedom during lunch and like just being able to do whatever we want and like having some downtime.
I'd have to say my favorite thing is the outdoor campus. Like, I really like being outside between classes, like in the fresh air. It's not an opportunity you get many places.
All right. So, question for the teachers. What is an important lesson that you learned in high school? And we'll ask Ms. Martin and Ms. Kolb this one.
So an important lesson I learned was to connect with my teachers when I was a student, and it may have started with asking for help and then went beyond to learning, like, what did they enjoy doing and developing that personal relationship. And then that helped me in college, knowing, okay, I can go to my teachers and ask them questions. That's what they want you to be, like an advocate for yourself. So that helped me as I went on in school.
I think one of the biggest things that I learned was about taking risks in a lot of areas, but especially taking risks socially. I think when I first started as a freshman, I was really shy, and sometimes I wouldn't reach out to people because I felt like, oh, this person's not in my group, so they're not going to want to be friends with me or talk to me. And then eventually I realized that people perceived me as being stuck up because I wasn't reaching out to others. Which was not what I wanted. So at some point I just decided I would rather reach out and be friendly and risk having it come across as awkward than miss the opportunities for connection. So I think that was one of my biggest takeaways.
All right. And so for the students, what is one way that you have succeeded or failed in a surprising way so far in high school? And we'll ask Emma and Jonah. So you want to start, Jonah?
So I don't know if this is really a success, but what I learned in high school is to be open to anything. And so, like, my whole life, I had been playing baseball, and when I got to high school, I didn't enjoy it as much as I used to. And all my friends kept telling me, they said, just do track, you'll enjoy it better. And I kept telling them, there's no way I'm going to be running around in a circle for 50 seconds. And then eventually, I decided to join track, and it's been the best decision I made throughout high school. And so if I had to give you one piece of advice, because I've been here 4 years, it would just be open to anything that your friends will tell you.
Yeah, I'd agree. I'd probably just say to like try like anything, like even if you're not really like into it, because you don't know if you'll like learn to love it or not. And that's like really helped me, especially when I'm doing classes, because it's like I'm trying these new things and it's like I turn out to love them and it's really fun.
All right, back to some quick answer, fun questions. Where in the world would you most like to go, teachers?
I would like to see the rainforest, any rainforest.
Pyramids in Egypt.
St. Martin.
Hawaii.
Students?
Probably London.
Probably Greece.
Australia.
I'd say Australia, too. They have kangaroos.
All right. So, question for everyone, I guess. Who is an individual or group? Oh, my bad. All right. So we're going to do a quick question, actually. So the question is, who do you think is the coolest superhero? And we could start with Brian.
That's a tough one. I'd have to say Spider-Man.
That's an easy one. It's Batman. He don't need no superpower.
Yeah, no, I'd definitely say Spider-Man.
Spider-Man.
Wow.
Spider-Man.
I don't have super strong opinions about this. Sorry, people. Maybe Wonder Woman?
I like Batman.
All right. So now for our more serious question. Who is an individual or a group that has impressed you recently and why? And I guess we'll start with the teachers. So we can start with Mr. Kabachian and Ms. Martin. Whoever wants to answer first.
Who has impressed me recently? Oh, the cross-country team. I've been wanting to say this. I am so impressed with the kids that are trying running for the first time. Like, I was not an athlete in high school, but later in life, I picked up running. And so I'm, like, really proud of you for just trying it in high school, going off what other people have said of trying new. And I think it seems like a fun group of people that they're really different, but they're getting along, and they're encouraging each other, and they're just challenging themselves to do the best. So good job, cross-country.
This one is a little bit difficult for me to answer because it's happened behind closed doors, and so I can't really mention the name. It was in the guidance office, and so just really impressed with some students who have been willing enough to share their heart in a way that is very vulnerable and very humbling, I guess you would say, and willing to take that risk to kind of acknowledge that they're kind of off track and needing to make some adjustments in life. And so just really impressed with how that has played out this year with some students.
All right, and so we'll ask the same question to the students, and we'll ask Emma and Leah.
A group that has impressed me is probably the girls' field hockey team, especially last night. We were under a lot of pressure, and we seemed to overcome that, and we always work hard as a team and play for God.
I'm going to have to say the freshmen this year, because when I was a freshman, I wasn't doing half the stuff that you guys are doing now. You guys are really like stepping up into leadership positions, and it's really cool to see, because that's going to set you up really well later in life.
And you may have noticed that these are not necessarily following the same order as the questions that I gave you, but I think you'll catch on. So, being respectful, what is one thing that you wish, this is to the teachers, that students in general did better with? And we'll start with Bauer and Kolb, but leave it open to other thoughts.
Okay, a lot of thoughts in my mind right now on what to say, what not to say with this, but I guess I want to talk about the phones a little bit. And this is not something just for this school, obviously, or even just for this age group. This is something that adults struggle with as well. But just learning how to unplug. Mr. Benner, I think you even mentioned some of the neurological stuff that happens with our phones. And, you know, it's like a drug, right? And the more we use it and we build habits of using this thing, and pretty soon, you know, we've trained ourselves that we have to be constantly entertained by things. And it's, I'm really scared about what that means for us as a group of people, not just our school, but just largely, with the inability to be okay with silence and being okay with being bored. My 5-year-old has now started saying, "Daddy, I'm bored." And she's gotten used to me saying in response, "It's okay to be bored." And I am trying to keep on with that response, because when we're bored, and this is not the bored of like, I'm going to pick up my phone and watch Netflix or watch something. This is the bored of like, I'm actually going to deal with silence right now. And that's when we think about things of like, who am I? What are the things that I value? Where am I going? And if we don't have time for that, we lose a lot. So if we can find ways, not just in school, but elsewhere too, just to unplug, put the phone down, and learn how to not feel like we need to be constantly entertained all the time. And I'm just as guilty. Anytime I have a free moment, I have an urge to check the news and see what's going on, but I think it's something we have to be thoughtful about.
So I would say mine is also kind of beyond this age group. So I think one thing that is maybe a pet peeve for me is just people talking over others or interrupting. And in the classroom setting, particularly talking over the teacher or talking over peers or kind of having like whispered side conversations with the people around you when there's kind of a whole class conversation happening, which ironically I was not great at as a student. And I'm pretty sure I did all the time in Mr. Bauer's class. So Mr. Bauer, I'm sorry that I did that in your class. I didn't realize how distracting it is when you're the teacher, and now I know. So I think that's probably where I would go with that.
So students, one thing you wish teachers did better with, we'll point to Brian and Emma, but again, if anybody else wants to hop in, that is fine. Brian, you're free to hop in afterwards.
All right, I just want to say to like listen to each other, because like a lot of times we just really want to set each other up for success. So it's like when you don't listen, you can't really achieve that. And so like, it's just cool to like listen and like learn from each other so you can work to be better.
Jonah had something.
I personally like mask breaks, and we don't have a lot of mask breaks, and so I'm really disappointed sometimes. And also another thing is, like, we have like a great campus that we can go outside and do learning at, and it feels like we're just sitting in like a room, and it kind of feels like prison sometimes.
I'd have to agree with Jonah there. Like, we need to take more advantage of the outdoor campus. Like, a lot of times, a lot of classes some classes won't even have breaks. We'll just be sitting there for an hour and a half, do nothing.
Wow. You're doing something. I will say, from my experiences as a teacher, and we have gone outside several times, that obviously we have a great campus, and the privilege of going outside does obviously come with being able to do class outside. And so some of my classes have done well with that, others have not, and that is another one of those things that we balance as teachers. There are times where we want to go outside, but it may not end up well, and so that's part of it too. And I just want to add on to what Mr. Bauer said, because I think that really has affected sort of the spiritual atmosphere and lives of all of us, but particularly young people, is there's kind of a lot more crisis now within the younger generations asking questions of meaning. There's a lot more of like a desire to have a sense of purpose and, what's out there. And I think some of that comes from we don't take the time just to think about things beyond what's happening in the moment. And I think that's really important, to sometimes be bored or just to go outside and figure out something to do or just appreciate what's around you. We're talking in social issues about different sort of substance abuse and alcohol, and I think if you were on the outside of society looking in like an alien, you might say that these folks are addicted to these like any other substance. But anyway, let's go back to the lighter questions, shall we? This one's going to be optional, just in case there's weird situations. But what is a nickname that you have been called? What is a nickname that you have been called? Students?
You want me to answer it?
Yep. No explanation, just the answer.
Cuban Missile.
Dorney Park.
Hold up. Go back.
Dorney Park.
Moose.
Luhu.
Teachers?
Gordo.
Bean.
K-Botch.
Bowser.
All right, so another light kind of question. What has been the most rewarding class that you've taken in school? And I guess we could start with teachers, if anyone wants to hop in.
It was a graduate class that I took, and it was called Introduction to Oral History, and it was all about how to interview people and family members and record those interviews.
Question is, what is the most rewarding class you've taken in school?
From high school specifically, I would say senior English with Mrs. McTavish and tour and choir with Mr. Durstein.
Yes, they were all good. Tour and choir, my English classes at Doc. I loved school. That's why I'm back here.
I had an advanced biology class with Mr. Luma, and he was extremely challenging, which made the class a lot of fun.
Probably piano class with Mrs. Sensenig because I got to learn the piano.
Probably class guitar with Miss Sensenig or ceramics with Mr. Schwartz.
I'd say photography with Mr. Swartz.
Advanced math with Mr. Mast.
All right. Back to more serious questions. You want to ask this one, number 5?
All right, so.
4 here.
Okay. So, teachers, what does being a Mennonite mean to you? And we could have Mr. Bauer and Ms. Cole answer these.
So I grew up in the Mennonite tradition, but explored a lot of different traditions, particularly during my college years. And I found that there were beautiful things about all of the different traditions that I experienced. But I've kind of come back to the Mennonite world, and some things that come to mind that I appreciate, which I think are true in different ways of other denominations as well. The Mennonite theology puts Christ at the center of everything, how we interpret Scripture, how we live our daily lives, and that's really important to me. And I would also say the people within the Mennonite church that have been mentors and role models for me have consistently been people who are down to earth and who live with humility and just really genuine care for others. And then I would also say I think there are a lot of rich traditions in the Mennonite church. For me, rich musical traditions that I appreciate, but there's also a very intentional spirit of making room at the table for anyone to be welcome, and that's something that I really appreciate about the Mennonite church as well.
Could talk for a while on this question, but I think the way I thought about it was culturally I'm Mennonite, but I'm also spiritually Mennonite. So one of those I was able to choose, and the other one I couldn't choose. So culturally, I was born into a Mennonite family and attended Mennonite church growing up and attended Mennonite schools from kindergarten through college. And so in some ways, culturally, I feel Mennonite, and there's a lot of meaning there when I think about my family and traditions. But then spiritually, as an adult, I did choose to be baptized into the Mennonite church. And a lot of things that Ms. Cole mentioned here, I value also. The simple living, the emphasis on service and nonviolence, environmental stewardship, and just this, it seems, real desire to wrestle with what Jesus said and how do you apply that. And as a quick practical example, how many schools do you know of besides ours that actually requires a conflict resolution class? It's pretty cool. I think it's a nice way of highlighting one way that we're different when you think about Mennonite theology, but also how do you do that with education?
All right, I'd agree, Mr. Bauer. I enjoyed conflict resolution. All right, so students, what is something that you've come to value about being in a Mennonite setting? And we can start with Brian and Jonah.
So essentially my entire career here, I've gone through the system. So I've gone to like a Mennonite church, gone to chapel and like all that. And I would say the most important thing about being in a setting is you're actually allowed to talk about your faith and you're not going to be like ridiculed for it like you would in other places. You're not going to be looked at as an outlier, and I think it's very important. Now, have I like taken that leap of faith? No, but I feel like I've been given the opportunity to at least be able to express it in multiple areas, such as like we had chapel last Friday or something. You were allowed to like choose a group like of where you are in faith, and I thought that was really special.
I'd have to agree a little bit. Not being a Mennonite myself, seeing stuff from the Mennonite perspective has really taught me a lot. I've learned like different viewpoints of Christianity.
So we're going to go back to a couple of the quick questions here. We're kind of coming in for a landing, but as a young child, what is the first thing you remember wanting to be when you grew up? What is the first thing you remember wanting to be when you grew up?
Police officer.
I wanted to be an artist.
I wanted to be a pediatrician.
Probably a farmer, because I think many of my relatives were farmers, and that's something I thought about.
I would say I wanted to be a singing star.
Ballerina.
A veterinarian.
And we're going to wrap up here with hopefully something that everyone can share. I know all the students had something to say, so we'll start with the students. What is the best moment you've experienced at Doc this year?
The best moment I probably experienced was Pioneer Day because we weren't able to experience that last year due to COVID, and it was nice to just like have like a day off and like just hang out with your friends and like play games and stuff.
We got to work with two music professionals, Dr. Russell Adrian and Miss G in our choir, and I'm really excited because they helped us with our choir concert so much, and they're so fun.
I'd say Pioneer Day as well. Really liked having a day where you just get outside, have fun with friends.
I like playing basketball at lunch with some of my senior friends. I mean, we're not friends on the court, but once we leave, we're all best friends.
There are probably two experiences. One I kind of already mentioned in that students where they became very vulnerable and have taken the risk to step out was very meaningful. But also working with some students and encouraging them to connect and build and encourage other students, and then watching them be able to do that has also been a blessing to me.
I really enjoyed recently, I brought my kids to the girls' soccer game, so it's fun to bring in my family and my school life and see how they interact, and a student was very kind in giving attention to my children, so I appreciated that.
One of my favorite moments, a couple weeks ago, two students came to me and asked me to help them with kind of coordinating a surprise, kind deed for a larger group that they're a part of, which I won't say too much about because it's still in the works. But just kind of seeing the initiative that they wanted to take to support their peers and to be encouraging and uplifting was really a blessing for me.
A couple of weeks ago, I was out on the sidewalk, and I witnessed, pretty sure this was a freshman, 9th grader, witnessed this student by themselves walking along the sidewalk, noticed a piece of trash along the sidewalk, went to pick it up with no prompting. And I won't say who the student is, not to pick on them, but I was very excited by that. That was probably one of the best moments of the year for me, just to see that.
The small things, right? So I want to say thank you to my co-musician and co-host here, Hoagie and Mac, and then let's thank the paddlists as well. Bell just rang, so we'll see you in period 4 in 5.5 minutes.
You played the song, bro. Yeah. Oh, okay. Thank you. Okay.